Hello. In this session, let's talk about consuming cloud services in your Java applications running on the cloud. After you complete this unit, you should understand how to bind your applications to cloud services. We will go through examples such as binding to SQLDB, Cloudant, and MongoDB, along with ElasticMQ and data cache services. You will also learn how to bind to operational services such as session cache, autoscaling, monitoring and analytics, as well as log analysis. Services such as SQLDB, Data Warehouse, and ElasticMQ can be bound as Java EE standard resources. Services such as Cloudant, MongoDB, and data cache are easy to consume via REST API calls. You can bind to operational services by creating these services and binding to them using the CF command line tool or the Bluemix dashboard. To consume cloud services in your application, you need to create and bind to them. There are two ways to create and bind a service. One is to use the CF Cloud Foundry command line tool. Another way is to use the web portal Bluemix.net by logging in to the portal and going to the dashboard. For operational services that we shared in the previous slide, you can attempt the method of creating the service and binding using CF command line, or by creating and binding to them using the GUI, that is the dashboard on Bluemix.net. On the dashboard, you can see the vCap services environment variable and retrieve the service connection and credentials information from the environment variable. It is easy to parse this variable in your application. Now we have the capability of auto-wiring Java EE resources. If a service with the name referenced in JNDI lookup or dependency injection is created on the cloud, and you provide the name of the service in manifest.yml file bound to the app, then when you push your application to the cloud, the service will be automatically bound to the application. There is no code change required to your application to bind it to standard JEE resources on the cloud. You are accessing a data source through a JNDI lookup or dependency injection and declaring a dependency on external resources using the standard JEE resource references as usual. And then you specify the name in manifest.yml as we discussed while pushing the app. It is as simple as that. Auto-wiring is working as follows. Application does a lookup for a resource using the JNDI name, for example, JDBC/mydb. Service is created with the name mydb, and this service is mapped to the JNDI name, JDBC/mydb. It gets bound to the application when it is pushed to the cloud. As we mentioned earlier, mydb is specified under services in the manifest.yml file bound to the application. As we have gone over, there are two ways to consume the cloud services. We can use the vCap services environment variable or the standard Java EE way of binding services. In this example, we are parsing the vCap services variable for SQLDB cloud service to obtain the host name where the database is running, the database name, port number, user and password information. This will enable us to bind the application to the cloud service. We can also use the JEE way to declare the name of the SQLDB database and create a SQLDB service instance with the same name. You need to specify the name of the SQLDB instance in the manifest.yml file. There will be no need to parse the vCap services environment variable in your code or edit the server.xml file to specify the resource name. We can connect to ElasticMQ service using the Java EE way, similar to binding to the SQLDB service as discussed earlier. Similarly, you can bind your application to Cloudant, MongoDB, and Data Cache using the Java EE way by declaring the resources via dependency injection or remote context lookup. Cloudant is a distributed NoSQL database as a service. It allows developers to build web and mobile apps without worrying about scaling and managing the databases, and also allows smart and fast database sync between local and remote copy of Cloudant databases. Data Cache Cloud Service improves the performance and user experience of web apps by retrieving information from fast, managed, in-memory caches. MongoDB, on the other hand, is an open-source NoSQL database. We will take a look at the sample code for binding each of these services in the following slides. You can connect your application to Cloudant by specifying the Cloudant database name, for example, myCloudantDB, in the resource dependency injection or initial context lookup of JNDI name of Cloudant database. Also specify myCloudantDB as a service bound to the application in manifest.yml file. You can connect your application to Data Cache by specifying the Data Cache name, for example, mygrid, in the resource dependency injection or initial context lookup of JNDI name of the Data Cache service. Also specify mygrid as a service bound to the application in manifest.yml file. You can connect your application to MongoDB by specifying the MongoDB name, for example, mymongo, in the resource dependency injection or initial context lookup of JNDI name of MongoDB. Also, you need to specify mymongo as a service bound to the application in manifest.yml file. In this session, you learned how to consume cloud services and how to auto-wire cloud services while pushing an application to the cloud. We also walked through examples of binding to SQLDB, Cloudant, and MongoDB databases, ElasticMQ and Data Cache services, along with operational services such as session cache, auto-scaling, monitoring and analytics, and log analysis. These links can help you further understand the IBM Cloud. Additional links, as shown here, can help you understand services offered in IBM Bluemix, namely the OpenStack VMs, the IBM containers based on Docker container. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you.